Well, you'd have to been living on Mars not to realise what the main news agenda on the domestic news programmes are this week, and that's Mr. Farage, who's taken the world by storm. Just to put the whole thing into context, as you and everybody else is probably aware, he's resigned his seat in the House of Commons. He's the MP for Clacton and has decided to stand again to get himself another mandate from the people of Clacton. This against the background of him being referred to the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner for this £5 million that he received as a gift from the crypto billionaire Christopher Harbourn, who lives in the Philippines. It's an expat. He's got I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it, he's got a Filipino name as well, which he uses. He doesn't use the name Christopher Harbourn. There's also now a further investigation on the basis of a referral from the Liberal Democrats about money that he's been receiving from this other fellow, Gorgeous George, as they call him.
Yeah,
I don't
Cottrell.
know, George Cottrell, who's supposedly has paid for what you and I would perceive to be benefits in kind, I guess, of things such as flats and places to stay and security and the likes. Both of these, Trump has been suggesting, were either prior to him becoming an MP, and he says for personal use, so not needing declaration, or with the efforts from the stuff that's come through from George Cottrell, he's been saying that is in relation to his role as a GB News presenter, I believe. That's one of the arguments he's been making on that front. And so they haven't reported yet, the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner. That may have taken a few more months, so I understand. I think the date that was suggested would have been September. So what he's decided to do is relinquish his seat, stand in the new by-election in Clacton, and suggest to the public, I guess, after that the people of Clacton have decided I've got a new mandate, and never mind what the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner finally comes up with. Because after, if he's re-elected, then the investigation resumes. It doesn't stop, apparently. They continue to look into what he's been accused of doing and how it's affecting his behaviour. And of course, we've got this big circus now because other parties have decided they're not going to put forward any candidates for this particular by-election. To a man, effectively, the whole lot, all the big names, the Greens, the Liberal Democrats, the Tories, Labour, they've all decided we're not taking part in this. So he's left facing, the big one that they've all been talking about is Count Binface, who we can come on to later, but Count Binface. And there are a few others. There's a guy standing for the British Democrats who looks as though he's straight out of school. And there are normally sort of 3 or 4, maybe even more on this occasion, independents, aren't there, who stand for local garden party or, I'm a turnip party, or a lot of very low level people. Count Binface is actually getting quite a lot of coverage. So I wouldn't be surprised if a protest vote doesn't coalesce around Count Binface.
Is he sort of a son of the monster raving loony party? Is he?
He's to do with the monster raving loony party now.
Well, what I thought was that if you look at the average Binface, what he has done, he's professionalised it, isn't he? He's a very shiny Binface.
He is.
And like a suit of armour, isn't it? It's almost like one of those knights with those hats on.
Absolutely. It is a knight, isn't he? He's got a visor bit, hasn't he, across the... Yeah.
So he's got an enormous head, though, isn't he? That's the bin, isn't it?
He has, yeah.
So I would say he's taken some advice.
Do you think?
And he's obviously raised...
Because you're into marketing, weren't you? So this is your field, isn't it?
So he's looked at his personal brand and figured that, the sort of $3.99 bin from a local hardware store isn't going to do it. So he's obviously invested in this. And as you say, he's become the story. And there's always, that's the great thing about our politics, there's always the extremely outside chance that there'll be this wave of who the bloody hell do you think you are, Farage? Because there's another woman, I don't know if you saw it, has done this video about the fact he's got 12 jobs registered on the members' interest.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's got 12 different things and he's entitled to have them. He's declared them. There's nothing wrong with that. But by inference, how can he be concentrating on his role as Clacton's MP.
Yeah.
And how many times has he voted in the House, for example? So,
well, he has. Sorry, go on.
But what I'm getting at is that there could, if it was done well, there could be a backlash saying, "Come on,
we're
not having this. We're not having this."
Well, he hasn't held a surgery, has he, in Clacton since he took up his role as MP?
I didn't know that.
The argument being that he doesn't want to do face-to-face surgeries because of security concerns.
Yeah, okay.
But then if you take £5 million that initially...
I was just about to say the same thing.
Yeah, that surely ought to be enough to be able to put a bouncer on the door or whatever he needs to make sure that he's
So what's the
regard.
alternative allocation? That he can't be bothered? Is that the alternative allocation?
Well, I think he's too busy, as you say. He's busy. Flying off here, there and everywhere. And he's made, I think it was, £27,500 per hour for 2 hours promoting these gold coins, so I understand as well.
Oh, wow.
So he's got his finger heavily into all sorts of things, which
Fair enough.
I was quite interested in. We're talking about the facts of what's happening there. The turnout was... The last general election was 59.2, I think it was. It's just under 60% anyway. It might be 58.
Is that how does that compare with the general election? Is that high, low, indifferent?
This was at the general election, wasn't it? The last.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. But how did that compare with
the by-election? A by-election is normally much lower than that.
No, I haven't asked that very well. With the whole turnout across the country, have you any idea how the 60% compared with?
No, I don't.
I would hazard it was a bit bigger, a bit larger, wouldn't it?
Well, I don't know. I think general elections turnouts are normally better than any other elections.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's there or thereabouts. But what I do find quite interesting is because of the Marmite nature of Farage, the other 30% of people who were eligible to vote at the general election and the concentration of media on Clacton over the next few weeks will actually inspire them to come out and vote. So there's a huge number of people who didn't vote last time round who could go to the polls and make a huge difference.
It could do.
At the moment, I think even if all of those who voted for parties other than Farage were to coalesce behind one candidate, there still wouldn't be sufficient to be able to knock him out in a straight race, if you added all together the numbers from last time round. But that doesn't mean to say that there's not a huge groundswell of disgust, I think, amongst a large percentage of those who are voting in Clacton that might push them onto the ballot box where they've never been before. It's going to be a very interesting election, isn't it? And of course, then when we return, assuming he wins the seat,
I think he will win it.
When he returns, then the investigation continues and we get to a position where they declare their findings. And if he's suspended from the House for more than 10 days, it triggers another recall petition, in which case we're back to square one, which is presumably where the other parties will pile in. And
so I guess the analysis, other than, I know we're going to talk about Mr. Binface later, or Count Binface, sorry. But I guess the question is, in the analysis, is this a masterstroke in PR management, resigning and restanding? Because it would all have been thought through. Because he'd been very quiet, hadn't he, Mr. Farage, for quite a while?
Absolutely.
So is it a masterstroke or is it a monumental tactical error? Or will only time tell on that one?
I think it all depends upon what comes out from the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner's report, doesn't it? I mean, he's pushing this as I'm representing the people against the establishment, isn't he? But I think it, whatever they come out with will have a huge bearing on whether it's considered to be a masterstroke or otherwise. Because I think if there's nothing new when he reports, so if there's nothing that's not already in the public domain, then I think Farage can turn around and say, well, there's nothing new to see here. I've got a mandate from the people of Clacton. Why are we having to go through this business of another vote? He's justified then, isn't he, in his action. But if it comes out that there's a lot more to see and there's a lot of things that he hasn't disclosed and that he's effectively hoodwinked the people of Clacton, then I think we're into completely different ballgame. I don't know whether he has to disclose to the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner where he spent the money, for example. You would think he would have to, wouldn't you? You would think he would have to tell
No,
him.
I don't actually, because I
You
think
don't?
the commissioner, his job is to figure out if he played by the rules or not. And loosely speaking, because I've heard God knows how many media people talk about this, loosely speaking, if such a gift would give that individual a position of undue influence, or a reasonable person would expect it to, then you have to declare it. But that you don't have to say, and then what did I spend it on? Because whether it was for security, PR, just a gift to a mate, that's not the point.
But the whole principle behind it is that if you have to declare it if it's used in the furtherance of your political aims. If it's used just as a personal gift, then he's got to tell him what it was used for. He has to tell him what it. Otherwise, they can't make a definitive.
Maybe you're ahead of me on that. But thinking sensibly, just saying, if you just look at the facts, forget the personality. We'll pretend it's not Mr. Farage. But if you're a member of Parliament and you have a member of industry from a particular sector who gives you £1 million, let's say, because that's an awful lot of money, then the mere fact that you take that gift, to me, would suggest you are in a situation of conflict of interest or undue influence, whichever words you want to use. And that alone, to me, says that you ought to be declaring that. Is it within 12 months of taking up the seat or something like that, isn't it?
It rolls backwards 12 months retrospectively, doesn't it? So, if you have to go back through the previous year to have a look at what might be perceived as influence.
So for me, then with a much lesser sum, with still a big sum, you ought to have declared it just on that alone. The Cottrell case is a bit more complicated and murky, isn't it? Because of Cottrell's, I think he's a convicted felon, isn't he? In the States?
In the States. Yeah.
So that's a different flavour. I think it's more complicated and therefore might not cut through with the public. But the 5 million is definitely cut through.
Especially in light of the fact that it's dealing with loosening up the regulations with regard to dealing in cryptocurrency in this country was a major plank of reform's agenda, and they have since changed that. But that makes it look all the more suspicious as to why this money has been given to Farage. But we'll have to see on that front.